I had 43 submissions for this challenge. I put out a reference photo for you every 2 weeks in my Discord. It's a free community, give you a place to learn how to draw, all that stuff. And today, they have all come in for the critiques under me. I forgot to do something. Yeah, wait. This is the reference photo. Let me grab the reference photo. Boom. I got the original. You got prank. Just kidding. I actually didn't. That's my copy. This is a copy of a painting by Hippolyte Flandrin. It's maybe still a little wet. It's a little tacky. I probably shouldn't be touching it. Chat, I am not 5'3". I actually am 6'5", 6'7". It kind of depends on the day and the heels I have on. This is the original. We got 2 photos here. I think this one has better color. And this one is like maybe slightly more proportionally accurate. I'm not sure, you know. You got to do the best you can with some of these. Now, down chat, how mean should I be here? How mean should I be? Like this, we can get real spicy here. I have a slam dunk here. One of you guys is not like the others. One of you guys is a little bit unique, okay? And this is the nuclear zone, otherwise known as the sus zone. And I felt like one of you guys was a little bit sus with your submission. Was it AI? Was it robot enhanced drawing? Here is our painting from the man himself here. And it's a good painting. I had it ranked pretty high, you know, up here at the top. The technique looked a little weird to me. Technique looked a little weird to me. It's very hard edged, which is good. Good painting is hard edged. I pulled this over here and I laid it on top. Chat, what do we think about this? I think we're in copper, chat. I think we're in copper. Let's just look at some opacity differences here. I'm not saying 100%. 10%, 50%, it's 75%. I think we're in the sussy zone. And this looks like a tracing diff to me. Brother, I don't think you used AI. I think you're tracing and you're color picking. And so I had to look at some of your other work, okay? Now this is where we're doing a little investigative journalism. I was like, damn, that's a good painting. But then I reverse image searched it, brother. Let's put the ref over. Boom. Brother, you're a color picker. You're a tracer. You know, and I think actually too, the thing that surprised me is the mark making on this stuff is actually really, really good and really clean. Like I actually think that it takes like a reasonable amount of skill to mark make like this. Here's the thing. It's okay to do this. And yeah, color picking is okay sometimes. I'm gonna be pretty hard on color picking. I think color picking is kind of bad, but here's the thing. This type of stuff, one is it produces good results. You got a great looking painting here. But the thing is now you go to try to paint something else and you try to do it without tracing this time, or without color picking. And it looks horrible. So now you've just negatively reinforced your mind to not do it the right way. The next time you go and try, next time you try to learn something new, you're going to be forced into tracing or you're going to feel really bad. And you're going to get caught in this cycle. I know you're a young guy, right? So you're going to get caught in this cycle where the only way you can make something that looks good is if you color pick and trace. And eventually you're going to hit a wall where the only thing you can do is just copy Pinterest photos. And that sucks, art is way more than that, I think. And like every time I try to learn something new, man, I suck at it. Especially with the dark fantasy one, like the whole point of me doing that is so that I, actually struggle in front of you guys and show you like what the process is of actually creating something, because it's super, super hard. And there's so much work that has to go in order to make like a good product. It's just it's a cautionary tale, man. I think you should get comfortable being a lot worse. So go make some bad drawings, man. Sketch loose, because I actually think that the mark making and stuff is actually, it's reasonably decent. Submission number 1. We're gonna drag him over to the drawing zone. I put you at the bottom of the pyramid because I think that you're actually doing something that is so good that none of us can comprehend. You did nail the face shape here. You nailed the face shape. What's important about drawing, and actually what separates almost the entirety of what separates the bottom tier from the middle tier, is the feeling of the character of the model. Like, the general face shape, I think is even if the proportions, I think, in all of these need work, I think the character of the model is much more represented than in the lower tier. Huge bazoinks. Ew. My, oh my God. Ma'am, you've been enhanced. Bazoinga. I'm talking about the head, okay? I don't care about none of that. If we're gonna do construction here, let's do it the proper way. I'll show you guys once. Just this once, never again, okay? Unless you watch one of my Roblox videos. We draw a circle. The head, it's kind of like a circle. You don't think about it too hard. And then we put a center line down the head. Okay, that's gonna split our circle in half, if we're good at drawing. Today, we're not. We divide the circle in half, all right? Now we have a circle that's split into half. That half is our brow line. Then we mark the bottom of the circle. Now you see what I'm doing here? That's the bottom of the nose. Oh my God. And then we drop that distance. We take this distance and we drop it down one more time. Hey, there we go. Nice job, actually. And on this reference photo, the bottom third is a little bit small because that's, you know, the third is for chads like me. Actually, I think I'm a little bit bigger on the bottom third just because, you know, that thing. If I rotate my head down, those thirds start to collapse, right? The top one gets bigger, amazing hairline, and then middle one gets a little smaller, bottom one gets a little smaller. So she's rotating her head down. There's one more thing that happens when I rotate my head down. The back of the head comes up, and we all got these big craniums in the back of our heads. So that comes up, rotates upwards, and it gives us extra length at the back of our head. So what happens when you look down is the head gets longer, actually, but the thirds get reduced. From here, we can attach our jawline. She's got this like really like oval jaw. And I think it's like kind of important too, just to like put in that like oval feeling kind of as soon as possible on this. Because that's the character of the form is what I describe. It's kind of, it's not a real thing. It's just like a character artist would draw. I think your values are super sitting kind of on the light side because you're too scared to go down dark. So I bet this black is like, okay. It's another person who did black, but it's like kind of light. I'm sure the reference, you know, if you tap this reference photo, it's also 13. So maybe you did that, but 13 out of 100 if you look at my value scale up here. But the thing is this is a picture of a photo, so it's not going to hit the actual blacks of the painting. So I would make it probably black. If you want to do, you know, 1 out of 10, that's fine too. But certainly, you know, compare this to this. And this is just looking way too light, right? So we just got to bring down that shadow on the side of the face. When I put in this value, right, it's important to remember my face turns at the side of my head, right? So I got the front of my head, and you can see my cheekbone right here. I'm like, hell, I'm skinny right now. You can see this cheekbone is where the front of my face turns to the side of my face, and it kind of goes straight back. And that is the front plane of the face to the side plane of the face. So if I'm getting light from up here, that light's going to come down, it's going to hit the front of my face, the side of my face is going to get shadow, right? Can we chill on the thirsting? Holy shit. Bro, I'm banning. I'm gonna start banning on the I got the craziest chat. First off, if you don't look like this, I don't want you. Why do you think I chose the photo? Okay? If this isn't you, I don't want you. Second off, you got to be good at painting, all right? If you're not paint maxing, if you're not degenerately grinding art, I don't want you, all right? The biggest glazers in chat are getting a ban. If you guys are doing studies, draw big. Like everyone in the 19th century was drawing big. Like drawing big is really, really, really important. Because here's the thing, like if you're trying to get the center line of this head right, and the real center line is like this, and your center line is like this. I'll make it a little bit more obvious. And your center line's like this, like that can actually really throw off your drawing. Those are two angles that are significantly different. And if the head is tilted a little bit out of place and everything else is correct, that center tilt is gonna make everything look a little weird. And you're not gonna know why either. And so if I'm zoomed in like this, if this is really big on my screen, it's pretty easy to tell the difference between those two angles. But when I'm like way back here, when my drawing's tiny on my sketch pad, a couple inches, that angle becomes almost impossible to differentiate. Draw big, like everyone used to draw big. Everyone used to always draw, you know, this original painting, I'm sure is about life size. There's a 24-hour painting competition painting. And our jaw comes out. Pretty much bisects with the mouth too. That's where the jaw kind of ends. It goes back first, right? Here's one of my former students that didn't turn in his homework. The jaw comes back, right? It comes from the front to the back, and about where it hits the lip line, that's where it turns upwards and goes up to the in front of your ear. So My lip line goes across like this, is going to hit where my jaw turns at each side, and then it moves upwards. And our center line is tilting whatever this is, left to right. And that means the line across our features is going to tilt the opposite way, up and to the left. Kind of forms basically a 90-degree angle. That's not true all the time. It depends on the perspective and stuff, but nobody likes perspective. And what you'll find on most people is the width of from cheekbone to cheekbone, the front of the face, is the same as chin to brow line. And that's something I find all the time. And I just checked that here just by holding my pencil straight onto the screen and just taking that measurement. And now we're right. It still feels a little thin though, but that's probably because you have a little bit extra up here. But when I do this, it'll feel a little bit better. You can't do a beautiful masterwork in like 20 minutes or an hour in your sketchbook. You got to make it bigger so you have more resolution. It's like increasing the file size on your sheet of paper. Take your time and build the construction so that you can change these angles, because you're never going to hit it right on the first try. Even pros miss all the time. You can look at Michelangelo's drawings and you'll see him throw out 3 lines and he'll miss, a couple of them, and then he'll make the right one after he has a little bit more information down. It takes hours, and this painting, I believe it's from the expression competition, so it took 24 hours and it's life-sized. So like that's how you hit that level of resolution. I only spent, on mine over here, oh shit, I dropped it. On mine over here, this is only it's probably like 8 to 10 hours, right? So like if I wanted to get this to the point where like the modeling is right, there's some small, I think there's some proportional errors and stuff, I'd have to spend that extra 10 hours or so. And I would have to set things up a little bit earlier on. I can do it over here. I'd have to set things up right a little bit earlier on. I have to take my time. And the amount of time you have to do something is kind of like hunting, You can see your deer and your scopes. I know we're all hunters and outdoorsmen here. I know we're all hunters here, but you can see the deer in your scopes, and you have to take as much time as you think in order to set up the shot, right? So if you think it's going to run away real quick, then you need to just take the shot as soon as you can, and you're a high chance of missing. But if you have all day, then take as long as you possibly need to get the kill shot. And so set up that construction and draw big so that you have a higher chance of doing that. And it's also like a thing of like, is this drawing like composed in the sketchbook page? What if this turned out really beautiful and you wanted to rip the paper out and put it on the wall? It's like, this is kind of just awkwardly floating in the middle. Why not use and engage with the whole page? I'm reading chat for a second, all right? I'm not Kai Cenat, okay? I don't know how to read chat at the same time as I do this stuff. Jake, do you think having ADHD makes it harder to slow down when you draw? I'm on so many amphetamines right now, bro. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I think so. I think that there are some people who just tend to be really, really slow, and they're like crippling. I've trained a lot of students at this point. Kai Cenat hit up Livy Dunn, and it was just crazy Rismus. And I've had so many students at this point, and about 70% of them just draw way too fast and way too chaotic. And then the other half of them are way too slow, and they're just so calculated and scared of ever making a mistake that they just end up like shooting themselves in the foot. They're terrified all the time. So both of those are just as bad. And you're never going to be like in the right pace for any of them. Like being the right pace is about like being mindful and like learning this stuff the proper way. So learning anything is just about mindfulness and taking the time and accepting that. So you're never going to just be, no one is born like good at this stuff. No one has the right pacing, the right rhythm. And it just takes time to learn that. So yeah, you have to go against your own nature, I think, and that's just the hard part about art. Jake-Ray and the Meyer-Briggs test. I'm a Capri Sun. Don't reach at. Okay, next version. All right, next one. The problem here is we just need to not get too caught up on the little bits and details. I think that's really important. And you don't go for like the highlight on the top of the eye until you're finding like those big shapes. And by the way, guys, everyone W's in the chat for the people that drew all this and submitted this stuff, especially, the people that are beginners and the people that are struggling out there and having a hard time. Big W's for them, because they actually are the reason why you guys get, free critique. And this stuff, I know, I'm looking at you, chat. You might think you're better than this, but probably 95% of you aren't. So, as far as academic works, everyone starts from zero. And you got to work your way up. And unless you've actually like really grinded this academic stuff, you had good teachers and stuff, you don't get there. And you got to fail a lot and suck at art. So big W's. Hell yeah. Chat's exploding. But the big idea here, the character of the form, it's this like beautiful oval head and this like feeling that flows down like this, right? So that's what we care about most. And I don't want to see no details. I don't want to see no nothing until we have that character. So find, you know, that chin in here and really think, you know, it's a small little dainty chin and it has this rounded, you can't go flat across it. Everything feeds into that shape language, right? So it's got that rounded chin. And we always put our center line on. I don't care how cool you think you are. You always put your center line on. Center line is the basis of everything, and your base forms too. We have light coming from the top left because there's shadow on the bottom right, and there's light highlights on the top left of everything, right? So if this egg got hit by light in the same situation, each of these lines wrapping around. And here's our shadow on the right side of our egg. There's our egg person. Everyone's an egg person. You got to be a little bit more precise than just an egg, but I mean, an egg is a pretty good description. We just need to carve into the egg where we need to carve in on the light side, right? So our eye sockets go in, right? We have a brow line that goes in, and they cause a shadow. Play-Doh maxing. Let me heat up this Play-Doh real quick. And when I push, into this egg, hey, guess what happens? It makes a shadow. And this is another one of those things where you're gonna be like, wow, Jake, I know what a shadow is. Thank you. Show me your art. All right, you don't. You probably make really flat drawings. So everywhere that we push in is a shadow. This is the exact lighting setup, actually. You can see the shadow on this side everywhere, and then we have light coming from, actually the light's coming from up here. And the shadow over there. And everywhere we push in, we're pushing into the form, right? And so now I'm pushing into my eyeballs. Okay, we're going back to breakcore, I'm sorry. We're not future house maxing, we're breakcore. Jake does poo. Sometimes, once a day. All right. Let's hit it. Everywhere that you push in goes in. And then we also have little balls for the eyes, right? So the balls, they catch a shadow on the bottom right. I don't even know if you guys can hear me. That's what your drawing should look like. Without any details, we create stronger drawings, right? Because, when you see your friend walking down the street, like all the way down there, like you don't see him, you don't go like, oh, that's my friend because of the color of his eyes. No, you see your friend because his silhouette, his big proportions, the shapes of his face. Like that's the stuff that matters, right? Holy shit. Guys. Oblivion ambiance day and night. When you see your friend down the street, you don't recognize him because of his Nordish face. His Khajiit-like fur. You recognize him because of his strong axe, his large face-shaped proportions, his Nordish, broad face, all right? That's what matters most, all right? And we just need to simplify everything down and only think in two values and work on our linear drawing skills, our big proportions, our thirds of the face. That's the type of stuff that matters. It's the racism that gives them away. It's not racist if they're Nords, all right? They're kind of uncivilized, all right? This was brought to you by the Red Guards. All right, we're gonna rapid fire out the rest of the bottom tier and then we're moving on. I'm gonna just give very quick notes to everyone. Why is my shirt mildly transparent? It came like this. It's from Shein. Wait, do you guys not recognize my VTube aura? My mega VTube aura? How do you guys not recognize that? I even got the jiggle physics. I just haven't turned them on yet. All right, you. Stop painting. You lasso selected this face and then shrunk it. Don't be doing none of that, guys. If you're gonna do that, you need. I'm banning you from digital, and you're gonna go pick up a piece of paper and touch grass for the first time in your life. You are a hard worker, and you need to stop working so hard because I feel the anxiety through this drawing. Just gotta chill out and work on your drawing skills. Do the 2D linear drawing stuff. If you want to paint, that's fine. But the thing is you're always painting on top of your drawings, and when you're not drawing, when you think you're running away from your drawing by doing paintings, you're doing drawing at the same time, but you're just letting it slip. Some of you guys got the resting heart rate of someone being hunted for sport while you're painting, and you guys gotta not do that. Just relax and have fun, and work on if you're trying to do everything at once, you're going to be stressed out and it's going to be really hard. But if you're just focusing on like, hey, today I'm working on my proportions, I'm working on building from a center line, and if some other stuff slips, that's okay. But when you're trying to do everything at once, like you're just like running up on stage and trying to do your whole dance routine, but you don't even know how to do the two-step. So that's what's up. And think about kind of like the big angles of things. So compare everything to your vertical and your horizontal. Think about that, and vertical and horizontal floating in front of everything. When we look at this, I know it's subtle. Okay, it's vertical. It's horizontal. I thought this was an angle. I thought this was an angle like that. You're right. Good job. You compared your vertical and your horizontal. Great painting. Great painting. Why don't you teach the class, all right? Why don't you teach the class? Awesome. Really embarrassed. And make sure too, when you're lining up across this axis, everything goes across this axis. If I know where the bottom of the eyelash is over here, you're going to find that bottom of the eyelash is going to be over here. This is the corner of the eye. This is the corner of the eye. So here's the eyelashes over here. So that's going to help you keep everything lined up across that center. So always go across that. Never forget to squint, Max. Never forget to squint, Max. This is a submission by helicopter. Let me just show you what helicopter looks like. Just before, this is who we're working with, all right? This is who drew this. So I don't want to hear anyone talking shit. Unless you're, like, willing to stand up against this, calm down, all right? Just want to get that out of the way. The lines that go across the face that are going to connect up all the features are going to go kind of 90-degree angle to that center line, basically. So here we have this. Here we have this. But these should be moving with the center line. So very, very important. Everything's got to move along with that. So if you say, okay, this is about where I want my eye to be, I'm just going to really faintly draw a line in like this across the form. This is where the inside of my eye is going to be, and then the other one's going to be over here, and the other one's going to be over here. Now we can see that this one swinging way up here, and that's what's going to cause it to kind of feel like it's moving around. So use that center line and just move across to your center. Left version on Ozempic. Yeah, I think we got a little reduction. Now that I think about it, I think we got reduced. One of you guys enhanced, the other one took away. That is the law of equal exchange. You need to step outside. You live in a cave? Are we in a cave right now? Is that sunlight? Is that natural sunlight beaming in through a crack in the surface of the earth? Is that the one shutter open in your bedroom? If that beam of sun hits you, would you hiss? Is that what we're doing right now? Some like width to height issues. So a little bit wide compared to its height. So we could probably reduce the width of the face a little bit, and that's going to make the shoulders pull into proportion. We'll let Count Dracula in the Discord. I know that you've been looking at my lips today, and they're looking a little plump. I kind of have the Kylie Jenner look, and I went outside yesterday. I went on a boat, and that's kind of crazy. It's kind of that's what's up. And I'm scared of the sun, so I put a lot of sunscreen on. And I'm actually allergic to sunscreen, funny to think of. So my lips kind of plumped up. They got the BBL look, the Kylie Jenner look. So I know you guys were noticing it. A lot of people were spamming it in chat. Jake, you look so good. Lips so plump. I do know I was seeing those messages, like a lot of them in chat. I had to time out probably so many. I just had to address the allegations. Cat's out of the bag. White as hell, brother. The funny thing is, white as hell, brother. The funny thing is, one second. A lot of our same proportional issues in this tier, but I think the people in this tier kind of got the character of the model a little bit better. And I think that that's a really important thing here. So there's many of the same proportional issues, but we have kind of that feeling of like that egg shape of the head. We have that roundness. And now we get to talk a little bit more about form and value-based ideas and not just like our pure 2D proportions and setting up our drawings in the right way. I'm not going to point out the proportion issues on like a beginner because I can tell, I don't like all these like TikTok critiquers and stuff because they'll be like, well, all you have to do is just move your
the width of the face over and move the eyes so that they're proportionally right. It's like, that doesn't really help because they're just going to go back and make kind of the same mistake. So if it's a beginner, I'm going to critique kind of the process that they took to get there and the way that they can set things up. That's the point. Jake, come to Brazil, brother. Come to Brazil. Obrigado. Brother, you must come to Brazil, Habibi. Okay. So with this one, we're getting a slightly more niche proportional issues. I feel like when you just put these two side to side, I think most of us can probably figure out what it is, and I think that that's really important. Bro said Habibi. Yeah, I know. I'm pretty cultural. Okay, I'm pretty cultured. Okay, obrigado. And why is there a girl moaning? Oh shit, that must have been outside my room. Actually, that's crazy. My wife's boyfriend must be over. I didn't. My wife's boyfriend. Yeah, that's why she slid the Nintendo Switch under the door. Okay. And I didn't even hear that. I'm so used to it. That's actually crazy, bro. So, I think when we put these two next to each other, you can see some big proportional issues, in the comparison of the two, right? So like we want to squish down things a little bit, right? And I think all you have to do to see this stuff is in the academy. In the academy. Back in the academy in the 19th century, when I was a young man, artists would have a small mirror in their pocket, like a little pocket mirror, or you can even use a hand mirror, and you can just look up behind you and hold that mirror and look at your drawing in the mirrored reflection, and ideally you have the reference in the mirror too, and so you can see them both from a mirrored perspective. That's going to help you catch some proportional issues. You also just take a picture of your drawing too, mirror it. That helps a little bit. It can cause some problems, but that's fine. Also, we just want to back up all the time and not work so fast, so we don't want to skip on to the rendering until we're kind of at that stage. So I think that this has enough kind of character to it and enough attention to detail to it that I think that you probably could get there if you just took your time a little bit more. I think that our shadows are being drastically understated here. So if we have our head really push, we can't be getting into all these subtle changes on the side of the face if our shadows, our big read of light and dark isn't working well. And that's what's the most important. So the big read of light and dark is light on the top left side. Here's the general read of the shadow across the side of the face. Use the wrap tool to fix proportions faster. You guys are a bunch of hacks, all right? You digital users. I've never used Liquify. I generally don't ever. I mean, I've never used it on myself. Sometimes on students, I will push and pull the proportions just with a transform tool. I don't use any of this stuff, all right? You guys got to learn how to just draw, all right, without these tools. You guys are a bunch of hacks. All right. You know what I use? You know what type of tool I use? You know how I can fix the proportions? With a pen and paper. Okay? With my quill and feather. Those are both the same thing. With my quill and ink. And I'll put the third tone in here. So just kind of consistent reduction of tones. And a reduction of our forms too. Right? So we don't have to show all the change in the lights. In the light side of our face, because that stuff is incredibly subtle and we don't get to go there until we've earned it. And all of our shadows, we can't be showing all those reflected lights either. We haven't earned that either. You really don't want to spend all your time in these little details trying to get all these little things right until you get the general fall of light across the head, and that's what's most important. And you can do that however you want. The technique is whatever. But I won't yell at you guys too bad for messing up like minor proportional stuff. I'm not going to get it perfect here in a 5-minute critique. It's just not possible. I think it's 37. Old enough to have a wife and for her to get a boyfriend. You got a small head. You don't get any. So what's the difference? Jake looks like a long peanut. Am I a long peanut or am I short? Who knows? So in a box, we have a hard edge, right? We have light on top and we have shadow on the side. Now, if I were to make this line a little bit softer, if I wanted to make this line a little bit easier, all I have to do is add a plane into the middle, right? I have to round the edge. And so I'll round the edge by adding a transitioning value in between the two. So now I've done nothing to round the edge other than carve a hard value into it, right? The harder that an edge is, the faster the form is turning around the side of that box. And the softer a transition is, the more gradual we're going in here. So we would have more transitioning values. And we're working in a limited range of value here. We're having more transitioning values is going to make this turn slower and slower and slower until that is like as smooth as a ball. And if you guys think you need to blend, you don't. There's actually, blending is not as big of a deal as you think. Pretty much, even in this original, I know it's kind of low resolution, so I can't tell you 100%, but I will bet you $1 million, even if we look at like Bouguereau, you will see how unblended this stuff is. Just the values are really close together. They're grouped well. So you don't actually need to blend, you just need to have the right values, you need the right fall of light across things, and the blending will happen by itself. So we have kind of a smart understanding of how these planes work, and we don't have to stress so hard about like softening every single edge, and that makes everything a lot easier. So we need the hard edges on the areas where the form is turning fast, right? So on our eyebrows, the general shape of the face looks pretty nice. Actually, it's pretty good. I'll call attention here to the same stuff as last time. So again, like push your darks down a little bit. So this is nice and black. So like, you know, take it to black. And maybe you want to be in this monochrome world, and you know. We can do our monochrome charcoal drawing, whatever. The change up in here isn't going to be as big. And we want to push our shadows down too and get into that value range to wrap around the side of the head. And then same thing here for the sides of our eyeballs. And remember, the underside of the nose, our nose is a box. Right, guys? The nose is kind of a trapezoid like this. And I have an underside, I have a top, and I have two sides. And what happens when I get light from the top left on this box? Well, we get light on the top of it, right? We would get probably light on this side too, you know, it's going to be about the same. And then we would get shadow on the under planes and the planes that face far away. There's a little bit of light spill off in here, so it doesn't get quite so dark. So there's like kind of a transitioning value on this side of the plane. But that's what we need to represent when we're doing this. So don't get too caught up in like all the individual lines, and just say like, hey, there's you know, an underside plane here. This one was done in Gartic Phone, so I think that's fine. I think you're just messing around a little bit too much with the opacity, and instead you can kind of work kind of bigger ideas and forms. I haven't actually tried Gartic Phone. Wait. Oh yeah, that's what's up. Basically, you need to work first. This is the mouse core. Basically, you need to work the form a little bit more cohesively first. You know, check your proportions and your stuff. Generally, when you're working kind of with your mouse in a Gartic Phone, because I'm an expert on this now, can I mix color? Wait, how do you mix color? Looking around my camera. Wait, can you not mix color? There's no way bro did this without mixing color. Oh my god. Wait, he's actually goated. Generally, you need to work from the biggest idea possible. So when you have such a limited tool set, maybe he's goated. That's why he's messing around with the opacity so much. You have to work from like one big form first. I wish I could make the brush way bigger. This brush is too small. This guy's gonna cook me. And then this is opacity. Did you really make these colors by doing this? By glazing? Wait, did you actually do that? You glazed all the colors? That's goated. Wait, this guy's insane. The colors are really good. Wait, bro. The colors are good, actually. Yeah, I actually think that you're beyond crit. You can pick the colors from the rectangle on the left. Never mind, the bro sucks. Bro is bad at painting. He cheated. Never mind. I thought he was insane. I thought he was actually insane for a second there. Bro is a cheater. And by cheater, I mean he made that up. So you don't got to mess with all this opacity stuff, man. Paint a little bit harder and push these... This one's a little bit more red. I think your color here is really, really good. So you can Push this harder, and then unify your lights together a little bit more too. So just, don't search too hard for, all these tiny little changes, and instead work the entirety of the form. This is the side of the face. So our side plane of the face goes up to the cheekbone, comes up to the side of the head. So you can push bigger ideas in here, and then you can, again, consider each of the individual forms. So we have our balls of the eyes are going to need the form on the left and the right side, top left and the bottom right. And then the underside of the head, and actually just a bigger proportional issue. I should have corrected this first. Underside of the nose. And if we look at the mouth area, right? So our top lip, our mustache area, we can break this down into 3 planes, right? And this is how it looks, right? We have the inner plane, this philtrum side, and then each side plane goes down and to the right. We have 1 plane on each side, so the right plane is facing away from the light, so it gets kind of this like darker light, which probably could be a little bit darker. The left plane is facing towards the light, so it gets the nice light, mid-light, and then this one kind of gets a nice transition. So we get this kind of form here, and you can feel kind of that rounding around the top lip. And then if we, it feels a little hard, all we have to do is just pop our transitioning tone in there. So I'm really kind of working with like 3 tones here. So I would recommend, I'm yelling at people for using digital when they should just be drawing with a pen and paper. You're using Gartic Phone. Maybe you're using it because you think it makes you cool. And it kind of does, because I'm kind of a Robloxian myself. But it's also possible that you should just maybe use a pencil and paper and shouldn't be such a zoomer about it. I think that you'll improve a lot faster, and you can really level up these skills and kind of focus when you need to. Blend the bottom plane out real quick. I got to look at the reference photo. I don't even remember what I'm drawing. So her nose kind of comes down and out as the ball, and then we have each side of the nose, and then there's a cast shadow. So it comes down and around. We have the ball of the nose. And then we have these pull around on each side. You notice I'm wrapping the brush stroke around. The nose is probably a little bit long here. We'd get more of a transitioning plane on here, and we get more of a highlight right here. The highlight would carry down the edge of the nose, and we kind of have a very subtle halftone right in here. This is the ideas, right? We're taking kind of this construction of the nose here, and then we're talking about how we add an extra transitionary plane in order to turn the form more. Who got the box? Each plane that we put in turns the form a little bit more, and now we can take that nose and we can turn it into a little bit more of a subtle nose, a little bit more beautiful, a little rhinoed. As we get into these higher level crits, and this is going to become more important in the next tier, is you need to make sure that you have kind of unity across your lights. So there's not so much variation in between your lights. What does it mean when we have this value running like this, and then this value running in, and then this value running in, and then this kind of stemming in? What does this mean? Like, what is that telling us about the body? Because each value is telling us how the form turns, right? Each time I take this piece of paper and I put a form, a bend into it, I look at myself mirrored, you see how it gets darker, right? The more that I turn a plane, a piece of paper, the darker it gets. And so each time I turn and put a fold in something, it's adding a new value. And so I have all these different values that show how much something is turning. So it's flat, then it's flat, it's one value. So every new value that you get is telling us something. And these lines, they're not telling us anything. They're just kind of like, abstract. And we're going to keep all of these lights nice and close. So all the lights that aim at the top left are going to get the top left lighting, which is this one. And all the lights, this one looks pretty good. I think it's a little bit too light. We can push the contrast here a little bit more. Here's our shadow. And then, this is kind of a hard edge from light to shadow. We can transition that out, but we'll transition it out and we'll keep that kind of transition value close to the shadow. And it's actually kind of it is just a hard edge in the painting, so. And then we'll make our transition, our light side transition, a little bit closer to the light side. We can put down a base skin tone kind of for everything at first. Maybe I'd separate out the lights and darks at first of my drawing, and then I'd kind of scrub like a base skin tone over all the lights, and then I'd find, a base kind of dark tone for the area, just an average. And now we kind of feel like, oh, hey, here, now the light's coming from the top left. And we want to push the lights a little bit more on these forms that look upwards to the top left, you know, top of our collarbone, top of our shoulder. And there's actually, I remember, I'm not looking at the reference, but I just remember that there's a slightly darker form, or a darker bit in here, because this is kind of where the chest flattens out. The light's kind of spilling over the shoulder here, and this is kind of the flat side of the chest. So there is a little bit more unity kind of packed into this. And I think that's one of the most important things that I just really fail to see pretty much everywhere in art nowadays is this idea of like how to unify these values together. So with you guys in this third tier, so this third tier I think is people who have decent proportions. There are color and major value harmony issues that I want to talk about. So a lot of the stuff I talked about back here, I want to talk with this stuff a little bit more like big picture. What am I drinking, Jake? I'm drinking the tears of my students and chatters after they get banned for gooning in chat. So there are some proportional issues here, but I want to start to talk a little bit more about kind of the engagement with the form and why these things are happening instead of just copying them. Our forehead has 3 planes, right? So I showed you guys our piece of paper earlier, and every time that we turn this piece of paper, it creates a new value in our form, right? So this is our 3 values, and our forehead actually has kind of 3 planes to it. So we have our central plane, and then we have one that kind of slides off on each side. So basically what you get is something like this. And you get darker on the sides if the light's coming from the front. I have a pretty nice kind of even light in here because I have several different lights going on. So the reason why... How'd you get that texture, though? You kids and your texture. So there's one plane in the middle, and then there's 2 that go off to the side and connect to the corner of the brow. First, we have the light coming down and hitting. And that's giving us kind of this general illumination of the central plane. The light is generally falling off on the side plane, and less or so on the left side because that's where the light's coming from. So that's the big picture read. And then we get a highlight on the top of each egg, right? So we have our 4 eggs in our forehead. We have our 3 planes of the face here. And we have a little bit of fall off on each side. And we can kind of soften out those planes by just creating the transitions like I showed on the box in the last tier. Keep our hard edges under here because that's where we're getting kind of that sudden drop off. That's why we have this value change. Here we have kind of a lot of colors and stuff going on, but I don't feel like we have like those, like it's stemming from the same idea of form, right? The same understanding of what's going on. But now we kind of have, I think, a little bit of a stronger feeling where we haven't lost, there's not so much like random variation that we don't understand. And then as this light kind of moves around, hello? As this light kind of moves around here and pulls off to the side, it drops off. And then now, again, we're going to have the same set of conditions happen to a different form, the ball of the eye. So all this stuff is the stuff you think about kind of once you get your proportions locked in, or ideally as you get your proportions locked in. So again, now we have the next form that we're going to deal with after the eye is we're going to have the cheeks that wrap around. We're going to have the cheekbones that sit on top, right? We can look at my cheekbones, and we can see that you see how I'm catching a highlight on top of this, and then it's darker on the side. That means that there's a plane on top of the cheekbone. There's a bone that's coming and wrapping around here. So there's kind of like a little shelf on top of that. So here we're wrapping around, and we'll give a little bit of lightness to the top of the cheeks. And you can see that light kind of spill up and around here. And we would go across to, everything's darker on this side, so we just got to be careful not to push things too far. Same thing happens on this side. We're just kind of like dropping everything down like 1 point on the value scale. What you do, if you like everything at the end, they would just take kind of a fan brush to the edge of the two hard-edged shapes, and they would just kind of fan brush it in so that it would blend together. Or you can just paint an extra transitionary value in between the two, which is kind of what I would prefer to do. That way we're not focused on blending at all, just because a lot of people will try to like blend themselves out of a bad spot, okay? So, starting out stuff like a little bit more structurally, a little bit more hard edged, it's scary, but we can get back to that blended stuff. The blending stuff is easy. I can have any one of you jabronis in chat do the blending stuff. All it does is just takes a little bit of time. What's important is understanding kind of the structure and why these values are happening versus just kind of copying the exact values. I wish I had the original here. So I think we're in the sus color picking territory here, I think. And here it's a lot of the exact same things I just said, where we just need to unify across our lights and understand why each of those colors are there. So I think we're on a moderately probable high chance of color picking here, which is bad. Don't do that. Just make your own colors and put it next to the reference and make the adjustments that you need. How do you guys think paint is done? You guys gotta, you goofy e-daters gotta get off Discord and Photoshop and get on a piece of paper, and more specifically for that piece of paper, the Bible. So stop color picking. I don't know if you're color picking, but think about the reasons why. And I actually like, hey, you have like a dark value here, and then you have a transition, then you have a transition, and then you have the light, and then you have the transition. It's nice. Like, just think. I think you can think a little bit broader and like push these things together. And then you can have, harder edge for this shadow on one side, and then it can diffuse out a little bit to show that the reason why this shadow is happening is because I'm not doing that. The collarbone comes up here, and too many gooners in chat today. Collarbone comes up here, and there's a hard edge, a shadow created under it where the shoulder starts, and then it diffuses out as it wraps around the edge of the shoulder. Really, the color mixing, and I have a video coming out on Tuesday. It's creating your first oil painting, how to create your first oil painting, and like all the materials and stuff needed for it. Mixing color is just not as crazy as you think. A little bit of color theory goes a long way, and really what you need to practice is just matching color. So look at something and just try to get as close as you can. This skin tone right here on the forehead, what would I do? What out of 10 is the value? It's like a 9 out of 10. I'd say 9.5 out of 10. So first I'll think about what's the value? How light do I want it to be? That's the most important thing. Then I can ask, what is it? Well, it's yellow. I can put some yellow into it. So I'll put a little bit of yellow into it. And now let's just take a guess. Let's just put it down next to... That cannot be right. That cannot be right. We're on the wrong layer here. So now I'll put that down next to my reference. This isn't cheating, and I'll compare. So what is this? Well, it looks maybe a little bit too bright and a little bit too blue. Well, it being desaturated can make it look blue. So I'm going to turn up the saturation. I'm going to turn up the saturation, and we'll try again. So we're a little bit too dark now. I'm going to add a little bit of white to it. And I think it needs to be a little more golden, so I'll add a little bit of red to it. And it's really just this. I think we're getting really close there. Add a little bit of more yellow in there, and there we are. Now we're spot on. And you really just need to practice doing that, like over and over and over and over again. And over time, you're just going to get really quick at doing that. And that's really all it is. It's this, do I match the value? Is it more red? Is it more yellow? Is it more, you can use the words like warm and cool too. So is it more warm, right? More red, or is it more cool, right? Which is more blue. So those are your modifiers, light and dark, warm and cool. There's saturation and desaturation, which literally is just adding more gray. Gustav Klimt is one of the greatest painters of all time. Guy made some incredible modernist paintings, The Kiss and stuff like that. The guy is like one of the most technical, realist, incredible painters of all time. He also made some of the modernist, incredible, like modernist stuff that we know and all that stuff. When you look at his old academic paintings, this is the Munich Academy in the 19th century, one of the most hardcore art academies, out there. And like, look at the precision and the thickness of this paint. Like, this is just one brushstroke that just goes across. Like, this is so incredibly sculptural and so thick. And this is what pretty much all academic work looks like. We just have such low resolution photos of everything that we think it's smooth. As soon as I come over here and I throw like a blur on it, I drop the resolution on the file a little bit, and all of a sudden I'm like, oh, he's so good at painting. I'll never be this good. Like, I'll never understand like how people were so precise with their colors. It's just like my guy, like he was working super sculpturally. You know, here's the top edge of the cheekbone, and it's getting light on it. I think there's so many hue changes in here that we're starting to distract away from the value unity of everything, right? So we have a general left to right fall off of light, like we've talked about a million times. And there's so much of a kind of a looking for, there's so much of a looking for each of these little value changes or each of these little changes that we're starting to distract away from what's most important. And that's kind of our big read of our values, right? So I want to just unify a lot of this stuff together and keep the areas that are light, you know, nice and light. And this is going to just make everything pull together so much better. So, you know, I know people want to be kind of creative and expressive with their lights, but you can do that, or with their colors, but you can do that, but you have to, you know, get into the big value and form ideas first. And the hard edges look good. This stuff looks good. You know, I just wouldn't invest your time in these little reflected lights under here. I think that type of stuff, it steals away from the whole. And if you do it, it has to be very, very subtle. So, you know, I think that maybe a little bit of a case of someone who's just working too hard and is trying to do too many things at once, and you would just be better served by doing only what you need to do. You know, work smarter, not harder, basically. That's essentially what I'm going to tell pretty much all of you. Because anyone, you can train a monkey to learn how to draw proportions and stuff, but you know, at some point you're just a mechanical copy machine. And what's more important is how you interpret these proportions, how you understand the form movement, how all these things change. Jake, in your opinion, how far do you think that one should take learning anatomy? I always find myself trying to master every detail. In your opinion, how far should you go learning anatomy? Probably what's happening is your form skills, your three-dimensional skills, your proportion skills are probably not strong enough to really be like focusing on this anatomy stuff so much. You know, anatomy is only as important as the message that it allows you to deliver. So, you know, most people that I see that are really, really trying to grind out anatomy, their drawings are just messes because they're focused on all these tiny little details. They have no idea how to incorporate it into the whole. They have no idea how these things string together. Their proportions aren't working because they're so focused on all these little things. You know, as you become very, very skilled at painting, you do need those anatomy skills. And I could be doing these critiques saying like, okay, you know, like here's the clavicular attachment of the deltoid muscle that's coming in here and creating this, and then we'll have, this would be one head, and then we'll have like a central head too that's going to rotate in, and they're going to connect right down to here, and then we have one head that goes around the back, and then this is our acromion process, which made our craccobrachialis as connecting to our coracoid process, and we have our trapezius right here, and this is where the clavicle is, and that would give us the pit of the neck here, which would give us the attachments for the sternocleidomastoid, right? Like I could be doing that, but like it wouldn't be effective at all. And 99% of you guys just like don't need that. And what you need is like these big form ideas. So there's a reason why I'm talking about like, hey, the chest has this kind of staple movement or whatever, this up, over, down. And you need to have the middle tones in the middle and the upwards facing tones, you know, brighter, and the downwards facing tones darker. Like that's what actually matters. There's a lot of stuff that's going really well in this, and I just want to see like a slightly higher degree of like unity and between these values, so we don't get so caught up on every little form change. And I think, and let me pull this stuff over here. You know, with this, I think there's just a really, really nice, fall off. Like this is just so beautiful. We have like this nice, the light hits, maybe it gets a little bit pinker, falls off down the face, our upwards facing planes. You know, get this type of stuff. Get this light. And we just have this like nice like egg, and her head is so egg-like too. You know, we have this nice, beautiful, soft, round forms. These things, they just fall off nice and gracefully. And I think that's the most important thing. If we're going to talk about the difference between copying and master copying, the most important thing is that we recognize that as the principal mass, or the biggest idea possible, instead of, like all the little bits and details. All those details have to come after the large egg of the head first, right? And the general fall off of light. What matters most is your big picture ideas in this stage, and how you can keep learning more. And this is kind of where things start to open up a lot more and get more fun, because you're going from like, oh, everything sucks, I have no idea how to do this, to, oh, I kind of get this, but it's still really hard. Well, that being really hard is never going to change, but you're going to get better at coping with it, and you're going to get better at understanding these ideas. And then as you move, a few years later, as you move into the more intermediate stages, like some of these guys here, I think that things really open up and become a lot more creative. And so the longer you put in, it's a very slow, difficult process, guys. It's really, really hard. But as you get better, these things really, they change and they improve, and you got to stick with it, and, get some courses and stuff. And it's ups and downs, you're never going to just be better. Someone said roller coaster. It's right. There's downs on the ways to the up.